Excellence with Professor Kiros is truly honored to bring two guests as a continuation of a program that exemplifies the presence of excellence at Berklee College of Music, corresponding to the name of the television program itself. And this is the second part of this one-year-long series that I have prepared to introduce the world to the musical productions of Berklee College of Music that I customarily describe as the Harvard for the study of contemporary music. Welcome to Excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros, Camille, and Ellie, who are dear to my heart, therefore my mind. So for the next 1 hour, what we're going to do is just chill and talk about music. And then towards the end of the episode, I would like you to prepare 3 songs for us. One each and one together. So let's begin talking about the two of you. Since I've had the honor of discovering you first separately, and then in the course of time in unison in my philosophy courses at Berklee College, what impressed me the most, in addition to your titanic minds, musical minds, and philosophical temperaments, is your friendship. That is unusual these days, because most of my students at Berklee, whom I love dearly, are continuously complaining about their roommates. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
You don't even get enough of yourselves. Not only musical partners, but also roommates, but also friends. And from what Ellie tells me, your parents are friends also.
Yes.
This is really paradisical, a model for the next generation, a generation that is raised on the foundations of race, sex, class, hate, misunderstanding, so forth and so on, and Generation Z, spearheaded by the efforts of Yara Shahidi, to whom I committed 2 of my episodes in the past, was a student at Harvard with me. And then there are these 2 of you, and prior to you, Aidan Solomon, who seems to be setting a stage for the next generation that we don't really have to get stuck with racism and sexism and genderism, that your generation seems to be developing strategies of going beyond it so that we can interact with one another as human beings. Let's begin there. How did you get to be friends? When did you meet? As you know, I'm a very nosy professor. I feed on that in the classrooms, and I'm very lucky. My students just with me, and we talk about very intimate matters.
Yeah, well, of course. So we met freshman year of college. We are now both seniors. So it was our second semester at Berkeley, and now we are 8 semesters. So we've been friends for about 6 semesters at this school. We had a jazz and vocal improv class together, and we actually met in an elevator. We were just talking in an elevator, and then we ended up walking to Guitar Center together. And then ever since that day, I feel like we've been together like almost every single day. We spent holidays together at each other's houses. We've gone on multiple vacations together. So it's a very fruitful relationship, I feel.
Incredible. And Ellie told me that your last birthday party
Oh,
also
yes.
the presence of your brother. The brother
Yes.
is also a part of the friendship. I
Yes.
don't think the world knows much about friendships of this kind. This is really remarkable. I'm impressed. How about you, Ellie? What do you remember about that elevator encounter What happened?
I think that I am definitely the type of person who seeks out people that I feel are very authentic and real. And I think I saw her in the class. I went up to her in the elevator because I was like, this girl just seems a little bit different. Like I think we can get along. So we just started talking, and I just realized like a lot of the way we grew up was similar. Like a lot of our family situations were similar, and like I just felt very connected to her from a beginning standpoint, even before we knew much about each other. So I think that I just remember being like, oh my gosh, me too, about everything. And so I was just really feeling like I had found a friend in a college that I felt like I hadn't met a lot of other people that I felt like I could connect with very quickly. So I think that once we met each other, we kind of just stuck together.
Incredible. I also learned again, because I'm nosy, Cami, when you're not in the classroom, I take advantage of Ellie. So I ask Ellie, what's happening? What are you doing? Where is Cam? And so forth and so on.
I love
Not
that.
with that, you're also planning to go to New York and room together?
We are gonna live with each other.
I'm so jealous. I've never had a friend like that.
We're very, very excited. I think also the good thing about our friendship is that we can do individual things. Like we're different types of singers and we're different types of musicians and we're different types of people, but we live together very cohesively, which is really, really important, I think, in a friendship.
Wow. Among other things, for example, again, I learned from Ellie that you like to hang out at antique shops, right?
Yes, Cambridge Antique Market.
Yeah.
We do. We like to do different things and just
Mhm.
try out new foods and do all kinds of different things because it's fun to like
Yeah.
share those experiences with another person.
And you also share a bottle of wine when the situation allows, right?
Occasionally, occasionally.
You're
Yes, we
living the good
do.
life, the two of you. How exciting. Now, let's gossip a little bit about the Berkeley landscape. What is it like to be at Berkeley for 4 years? I love Berkeley. And as you know, I say in the classrooms that I hate my breaks, my vacations, because that disconnects me from my students. That's how much I love them. Although some of them hurt me, but that's what love is. It comes with pain. So let's talk about the Berkeley landscape, the culture, the hanging out, the music, the interactions. Some students complain bitterly that it is too transactional, quote and unquote, is what one European student told me yesterday. He was a little bit down, and I said, "Well, what happened?" Well, the Tedros. At Berkeley, I just feel as if people who meet me are not meeting me for who I am, but for what they think I could offer them. And that broke my heart because it shouldn't be that way.
Mhm. I think the hard thing about Berkeley, specifically in a situation like that, is that a lot of our interpersonal relationships turn into business relationships very quickly, especially since we're all musicians and we're all trying to network and work together and everything. But then once that line kind of crosses, then things kind of start to change. So it's hard for relationships not to feel transactional because we're always working together in certain situations and we're trying to benefit from each other. So it's hard to know who is your friend or who is just being your friend because they want to benefit from you musically. And that makes it a harder situation. I vocally arrange and Ellie does all kinds of things like that too. So it's hard to know who's just trying to be our friends or who's trying to, work with us or who's trying to, you know what I mean?
Yes. What's your take on that, Ellie?
I think
What you
relationally,
with Cam?
that's definitely an I wouldn't even say an issue. That's definitely a situation you run into quickly.
Mhm.
Is that kind of mix of business with pleasure and how do you navigate that? I think that for me personally, I feel like Berkeley is a very personal, individual experience of
Mhm.
trying to find yourself in a space of people that all are working towards the same things and
Mhm.
sometimes want the same opportunities.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing that I've learned at Berkeley is not to compare because
Yeah.
everyone is an individual and everyone has something different to offer and to add. And I think that if you approach music collaboratively instead of competitively, I think that you'll get farther in this institution. I definitely think that it's about exploring, what is my niche? What is something that I'm good at? What is my passion? has led me to want to do this for the rest of my life. And it's not an easy career at all. Like, it's not very stable. I think that you just have to have a love for it and a love for music, and be willing to find ways to collaborate with people that you normally wouldn't, and kind of learning how to expand your mind. And I think that especially with our relationship, it's just learning to never be competitive. Because I think that, like, even though we're both vocalists, when she does something, I'm never like, oh, that should be me. Like, you know what I mean? You always have to come at it from the sense of, that's so great for her, and I'm so excited for when I'm going to do something that's going to make me feel fulfilled, and it's not necessarily tit for tat.
Yeah, and I think that is what our kind of sets our relationship apart from a lot of the other relationships at Berklee, because I do want the best for her and she wants the best for me, and that's the most important thing in friendship. You know, you want each other to benefit and everything. So
Wow. It's even hard to believe, because that's not what I hear in the classrooms. What I hear is intense competition, secrecy, resentment, self-generated conception that you are a genius. In fact, yesterday, in my aesthetics course, I committed one full hour to explore this idea of the genius. I asked them, what does that really mean? What is genius? That was the discussion yesterday. And considering how smart the two of you are, I want to extend that discussion yesterday with the two of you. What is genius? What is that?
I think that I believe that genius is subjective, kind of like art. I think that it takes a certain level of self-introspection to be able to attain genius, because I think that when you look at the definition of what genius is, it's something that stands out and something that is set apart from the rest. But I think that we all have a potential and capability for that. We just have to find a way to intermix our humility in with what we know how to do. Because if you think that you're the best at everything, you'll stop learning. And if you think that you're the worst at everything, you will be too scared to learn. So I think it's learning that mix of confidence with knowledge and balancing that in between, and how to adhere that to the world in a beneficial way.
Yeah, and I think that what definitely makes someone a genius, in my opinion, and kind of going along with what you were saying, is someone that has a huge willingness to learn. I think a lot of people sometimes at our school are like, oh, I'm a musical genius, I don't need to change anything about myself. And I think that someone that is truly smart and someone that is truly on top of things is always available and open to criticism and open to understanding more things. So I agree with what you're saying completely.
Incredible. I like what both of you had to say. I also told my students, who are really my friends, I pushed back against this idea that I heard from some of them, that they think that genius is an innate capacity that is implanted in some human beings and not necessarily all or others. I told them I have to push back against this view, because innate capacities, I told them, are just capacities unless they are worked on, so that the capacity which would otherwise remain inert and only invisibly present eventually atrophies unless it is worked on with hours and hours of practice. My usual example is the case of Coltrane, whom some, without knowing what genius is, might probably describe him as genius, by which they essentially mean that he had an innate capacity that no other artist did, which I question.
Yeah.
What I learned about Coltrane is that he practiced inordinate hours. His mother, the story has it, used to find him in bed in the morning when he was extremely young, because he has been practicing the whole night and then fell asleep, and the horn is still sleeping in his mouth. So his mother would come in the morning and gently take it out of him. Look now what this is implying. Practice, hard work. Otherwise, the so-called innate capacities about which we know nothing, that we think are there, will remain as nothing unless we bring them out through sheer dedication, sheer determination, and very hard work. Would I be right about that, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally. I
How
think,
about you, Ellie? Do you agree with me, Ellie?
I do agree. I think that this generation and a lot of others is very obsessed with labels and capacities and putting names on things, and this is what you will be, and this is the range that you have. And I think that that is kind of what's breaking us as a society, is nobody has the thought process, oh, if I try and work at this, I can get better. Like they think that they have to just stay in this box. And I think that that's another reason that our friendship is really great, is because we have so many deep conversations about like, why do you think that's a limit for yourself and things like that. And like, we're always pushing each other to explore the depths of our personality, the depths of our career, the depths of our voices. I think that we definitely are not afraid of those labels. And I feel like she definitely encourages me not to be like, I can't do that. That's not something I can do. Like, that's not a phrase that she believes in. And I think that's very much helped me in a lot of ways of I'm not going to say I can't anymore, because I just have to try harder.
I'm so lucky to have discovered you at Berklee. And when I talked to the two of you, and this has been the case for the past 4 years, ever since I've known you, it's so fertile. Your imaginations are so fertile, and you're so real also. You're not feigning interest. You're not just saying, well, like some of my students whom I love dearly, what do you want me to say? As you know, I don't like that statement. I don't want you to say anything unless you want to say something, and I have to listen to you. But I don't have any particular plan in mind when I ask a question and filtering to see whether it agrees with my prejudices or not. I'm merely interested in what you have to say. And what I like about the two of you, having known you for quite some time, you don't play this game with me. When I ask a question, you answer it. It really doesn't matter what Tedros thinks, besides I'm just an imbecile. Who am I to condemn, praise, and so on? I'm a nobody. I'm just curious. I ask questions as a professor. And trust me, when I ask these questions, it's only because I don't know what the answers are. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask them. So anyway, now, let's change gears and talk about your generation, Generation Z. What do you like about this generation, Ellie?
I like this generation because I think that we're just incredibly fearless to break generational molds. I think that I'm amazed by so many of my friends of just being completely fearless and able to just, no, my whole family's done that for generations, but I'm going to do something different. And like, I think we have so much passion for the things that we do that we just go for our dreams. And I love that about our generation. I also think that our generation cares a lot about people, and we care a lot about making change in political ways, in humanitarian efforts, in just knowing things about what's going on in the world, where I feel like we are very aware of how small we are. And I think that is a great thing, and that is not a common thing. So I really love that.
How about you, Cam? What do you, let me ask you a different question. What do you dislike about your generation?
What do I dislike about our generation? There are a couple of things that I dislike about our generation. The first one is probably, I think that we grew up, specifically the way that COVID intertwined with our life. Everything has to happen immediately. It's like if I audition for something and I don't get the part, or I don't know if I got the part, everyone loses their mind. Or if I have to watch a commercial, Or if my food is going to take about 5 to 10 minutes at Wendy's, we have no patience. And I think that that's something that we have to really work on because good things take time. I think that that really frustrates me with our generation, especially I've noticed going out to dinner with people that are my age and just whenever we're sitting and we're having a meal and we're eating, they're like, oh, the food is taking forever, or our drinks are taking forever. And I feel that when I'm with older people, they don't really worry about it as much. They just sit and enjoy the meal and have conversation. But I think we're so used to getting everything so quickly that, that changes the way that we perceive things. What else do I not like about our generation? I think that we are very open to change, but we are not as open to understanding as we are as open to change. And I feel like that difference is really important because I think that a lot of the times our generation we just do things because we know that it's wrong, or we don't say something racist because we know it's wrong, or we don't post something because we know it's wrong. But I think that we don't understand why it's wrong, and we don't like when we say curse words or we do things that are inappropriate, we're like it's inappropriate, but we don't know why it's inappropriate. We don't know the root of where these things are coming from. We just know that these are just things that we don't do. And I think that the important thing of understanding is after the people before us, when they pass away, we're going to be the ones that are going to have to teach our kids why you don't do these things. And I think we're just like, we just don't do it,
Ellie, you are privy to that video that I sent you, which he shared with class yesterday. Sadly, Cam is not in that class. I would like you to summarize the content of what you learned from that video, precisely on some of these points that we are addressing, most particularly the claim that some of the panelists are making that Generation Z is hungry for something. What are you hungry for?
I feel like that video definitely caused me to think a lot. I think it was a lot to do with how race is viewed. It's a lot to do with the church. It's a lot to do with all of those things. But I think the biggest takeaway that I had was finding kind of that hunger and it being misplaced in a lot of ways. Because I think that our generation is, I don't know, I think the world, everybody in every generation loves to say that the world was worse when they were living in it. So I think that it's always a competition. But I think that there's a lot of really scary things happening in our world. And I think we want to be part of some change. And so we throw ourselves into whatever we think is going to benefit that when it's not necessarily helping.
Yeah.
Or I think the biggest issue is the lack of communication. I think everyone's trying to be the hungriest and be the best and the strongest, but they don't sit down and sit back and listen and say, what can I learn from you as an individual? What can you learn from me as an individual? And what can we do cohesively to make the world a better place? And I think that that hunger is in all of us, but especially post-COVID and like the things we were talking about, we're so just trained to be antisocial and to focus inward and to be selfish and to think about what am I doing to uplift me? And it's a very me culture. And I think that we have that hunger and that craving for community and for building up each other and all of the communities that we're a part of. I think that it's misplaced.
I have been to so many protests where I did my research and I was there for my reasons and I was having conversations with other people. And they're like, just saw it on Instagram, thought I'd come. Don't even know why they're protesting. And I think that that's part of the problem. Just like what you were saying, just about how we strive for community and we strive to feel like we're all against something, but we don't know what we're actually fighting for a lot of the time.
Because we're not communicating.
Yeah.
Excellent. Which is related, Cam, to these analytic distinctions that you made, because you're a philosopher, between what you call hungry for something and understanding that for which you're hungry. This seems to be the issue that enveloping the confusions of your generation, that the distinctions between understanding and change are not carefully thought through. I could want something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I want it because I understand what I should want it. It may be the case that I want it without knowing why I should want it.
Exactly.
To know or not know what I should want is an understanding. Am I right?
Exactly. And I think that that also correlates with trends that we have. I think a lot of the times people will see a certain shirt or a certain vibe that someone's giving off and it's trendy and it's fun and it's, hippie. But at the end of the day, they don't feel that way. My thing is, especially with like the 60s when they were all wearing the bell-bottom jeans and the peace signs and everything, and everyone was just being so authentically their selves. That is what made them unique. But now we are all trying to be individually unique and we all want to be trendsetters and we all want everyone to look at us like we're so cool, yet we're not even understanding the point of that is that the authentic side is within yourself already.
And I think our generation, more so than others, is obsessed with celebrity and is obsessed with everything that goes into that. And nowadays, with social media and how it's advanced, we can see what I eat in a day, what I make for lunch, what I do every single day, and my day-to-day work schedule and everything.
We're
And I think
obsessive.
it's so available to us that we're like, I'm gonna mold myself exactly after this person because they're doing so well in the world that we no longer have the generic rubric of this is what a normal person with a normal income does, and these like things that a normal person has in a middle class home. And I think that that's not advertised as much as it used to be. So I think we're all kind of fighting for the same amount of success that is just sometimes inachievable, but at the same time is not necessary to have a happy life.
As you know, both you, Cam and Ellie, if you recall, I don't exactly like when my students, whom I otherwise dearly like, compliment me only for what I'm wearing, for my red shoes, for my ties. Of course, I appreciate the effort at bonding with me, but I would have liked to be complimented for the ideas that I'm trying to implant in their minds.
Absolutely.
You have heard me complain about this very mildly. I get offended. The only time that I become visible is when I wear my red shoes, because of which, in fact, I'm thinking about not being elegant any further, because I'm not elegant to attract attraction. I'm elegant because I like to be elegant, and that's where it should stop. But at Berkeley, that occupies space, unnecessary space. I hope I'm not whining.
No,
Not at all.
totally understand what you're saying. I think that that's part of the problem, just like what we were talking about. We want to, and at the end of the day, they're giving you a compliment because they want you to give them an A. You know what I mean? But when you're talking about real things like racism and discrimination and sexism, it's like it's just blowing past them. But then when we're talking about Y2K or we're talking about trends or we're talking about Teodros' tie, then everyone has so much to say. And I've noticed that in a lot of the classes that I've taken with you. And I think that that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And now let's do this backwards. At what point, Ellie, and when, as far as you could recall, did you know that you're going to become a musician?
So that's actually a really interesting story. I was not a shy child at all. I was very much like a drama queen. I loved my feather boas and all of those things. My mom will attest. But I had paralyzing stage fright, and I would not sing or perform for anyone. I played a lot of different musical instruments other than voice, and I was fine performing those because I think it was a little less vulnerable. But my mom put me in a talent show when I was like 11 because I was too scared to do it. She's like, "You're just gonna do it. Just sing. It's gonna be fine." And I just fell in love with performing and being able to emulate emotions and having people connect with me on an emotional level more so than they would if I was talking to them conversationally. And I think that I had to overcome the stage fright because I craved performing so much, and it overcame my fear of being perceived in general. I think that it is an incredibly vulnerable experience to stand up on a stage and have everyone picking apart your body, picking apart your hairstyle, picking
Yeah.
apart your outfit, picking apart everything about you. But I think putting that aside and making music, it's the only thing that I'm passionate about. It's the only thing I've ever been passionate about. I never was big into school. That was never my thing. I was always performing in some capacity, whether that be dance or singing. And I think that when I started writing my own music, that's when I really was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do, because I felt like I was so voiceless for so long. And then as soon as I was writing, I felt like I had an amplification to say whatever I was feeling, and it wouldn't be judged other than musically.
Mhm.
How about you, Cam? Cam refused, except once, only once, having known her for 4 years, to sing in the classroom for me. She sang once.
No one else wanted to sing, and I was like, I don't want to be the one that everyone's staring at. But my journey was a little different than a lot of people. I think I spent a lot of my early years cheerleading. So I was cheerleading for a really long time. And my parents used to always say, "You're such a performer. Like, we just love watching you perform. Everyone loves watching you perform." And I was like, I want to be a cheerleader. And I sang a little bit around the house, a little. And then I decided to take choir when I was in middle school. And I had a performance where we had to tell all of our parents had to come to the performance. And I sang my first like opera piece. And I told my parents, you guys have to come to my performance, because I didn't want them to come, because I was like, it's not going to be good, you know? They're like, we're so excited. And I remember starting to sing for them, and my dad's jaw just dropped. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, oh my gosh, I sound so bad. And my parents were like, you weren't going to tell us that you could sing? So then everything changed from that day. And they were like, we're going to get you into private lessons and everything. And then I started doing music in high school. And then I auditioned for Berklee and I got accepted. And I was actually very shocked, because I got accepted to a couple schools. I got offered a couple of academic scholarships at other schools. So I didn't know what my journey was going to be. But the minute that I got the acceptance from Berklee, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. And I think, just kind of going along with what Ellie said, it is one of the only things that makes sense. When I'm performing, I'm like, this is the feeling that I crave. This is what I love. And I think I spent a lot of my time in high school and when I was in my teens that I never knew where I belonged. And I was always trying to go different places and figure out different things until I found myself. But once I found myself singing, that's when I realized that this is where I needed to be. So I'm really happy that I made that decision a little last minute, but it's really nice. So I'm happy.
And in your case, Cam, and we've talked about this in the classroom, you're a great writer who doesn't like to write. I find that to be quite strange. Even the email correspondences that you do with me are so grammatical, so clean. They are,
Well,
and you don't like writing. What is
I I think that I'm very analytical about the things that I write. And I think that whenever I'm writing a paper, you can ask Ellie, it's like a 3-day ordeal where I just don't leave my room and I'm like losing, I keep reading it and rereading it and rereading it. And I think I become a perfectionist when it comes to my writing. But my mom is also an English teacher. She's a reading teacher. So I think that that definitely formed my grammar, because my mother was always like, that's not a word, that's not a word. Or like she'd reread my sentences and say, that's not right, you know? So I think that that is what definitely shaped my writing. I'm trying to do more writing, and I've finally gotten a little bit into songwriting in my later years at Berklee, which is nice. But I think I'm just a little critical of myself whenever I write things.
which is the opposite of Ellie. Ellie is a great writer who loves writing.
Yeah, she does.
Yes. I love to write. I think my issue is actually completely the opposite. I'm so emotional first, and I'm like, I just pour my everything that is in my brain onto the page, and then I have to go back and say, I've been doing this one sentence for 8 paragraphs. Like, let me fix it. But I think I have so much to say all the time that it's hard for me to formulate sometimes. And I think that's why I love writing music. I play guitar, and so I just love to sit in my room and just pour out everything that I feel and then make it make sense. And that's how I've found to kind of write. But I feel like even essays, it's hard for me to write logical and like research essays. Like that's grueling for me. But anything where I can talk about humanity and like anthropology and like the way that people connect to each other, things that I've gone through, things that other people have gone through, like I feel like that's just really another passion for me.
Incredible. And what I love about what both of you do to our male students at Berkeley is you know how to manage them.
We've had some management issues in your class before. I think that
yes,
some of the students at Berkeley are not used to people disagreeing with them. And I think that I just cannot. We've had a lot of issues in your class, Teodros, where people are just talking nonsense. And I'm like, I can't just sit here and listen to it. I can't. So that's why we have to manage them in a way and, move around them.
I think that regardless of writing techniques, like we're both incredibly passionate people about everything that we feel. Like it's like we have very strong emotions on things. So it's sometimes it can be hard for us to restrain that and like listen to someone's point, even if we're like, I have a rebuttal for that.
Yeah,
like,
it's so hard.
You have to kind of let them finish. I think that's the biggest thing we've learned in like a lot of your classes is how to respectfully disagree, how to respectfully kind of turn the conversation so that we can see all sides of it. I think again, like I just have a lot to say, so I like to just constantly talk, and sometimes I have to be like, okay, they need to talk, let them talk.
I used to find myself getting so incredibly frustrated and going to the bathroom and losing my mind, and I was like, you know what? Let me just respectfully disagree and let me just try to calm myself and center myself. So I think that class was very helpful for me to hear things that I definitely didn't agree with, but try to be respectful about my rebuttal.
And both of you matured, and I saw you flourishing, and at the end, really knowing how to deal with the male ego, which is very fun.
Yes, that's my specialty.
We're never afraid of a
That
male
is my
ego.
specialty.
I understand. And now, before we transition to your performances, and thousands of viewers are going to be tantalized. Let me discuss a very disturbing issue that I learned from Ellie yesterday. I took it home. I thought about it. I even wrote a short story based on what I sensed. Ellie informed the class that about 97% of women have been assaulted. I was shocked.
Yeah. It is very hard to talk about these things. And I think what makes people think that it doesn't happen as often is because of the amount we never talk about it. We never talk about it ever. So I think people think, oh, it doesn't happen when it happens so often. It has happened to most of my friends. It has happened to people I know. So I think that it's important to shine light on it. And then people will understand that this happens a lot. And people will understand, specifically men, I think a lot of the time, especially in media, I was talking to my mom about this the other day, I think that movies glorify certain sex scenes and things like that. So men or any gender thinks that certain things are okay, like when someone's saying no and when someone's saying stop. I think that it's confusing. And I think that it makes people think that some things are okay that they're not. And I think the problem is that we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about where those lines are being crossed ever. So people don't even know that they're crossing those lines because they think that it's normal and they think that they're having fun and it's just all the
They think it's subconsciously desired.
They always think it's subconsciously desired, especially when women will get raped and the first thing that someone asks them is, well, what were you wearing? And it's like, it shouldn't matter what I'm wearing. That shouldn't, and then it turns into the whole she wanted it thing. And I think that that's just, it's a hard place to live in, especially being in a city, being a younger woman in a city. It's very hard, and it's very scary as well.
I think that like the biggest thing, and we were discussing this in class yesterday, but I think like you were saying with that gray area of like coercion and like all of those different
Yeah,
aspects that can go into it, sexual assault is a huge umbrella. That's not just rape.
absolutely.
Like it includes so many other things. It includes harassment. It includes groping. Like it includes so many different things. And I
Coercion is a
think
great thing. We always say no does not mean convince me, because that's what it turns into a lot. Well, why? Well, we're having fun, or all these
aren't
things.
we grown?
Aren't we grown? And you know what? That's another problem with our generation, is sex is totally different than what it used to be now. So I think that that's where people get confused, because
It's a new standard of a
mhm,
timeline
mhm,
that has never existed
yeah,
socially. And I think that our generation, it's not our fault. We don't know how to navigate it. It's just something, and I think adults don't like, they don't understand. They can never really
mhm,
imagine how bad it actually is, because children don't want to talk to their parents about that. You don't want your parents
no,
to see you as wounded. You don't want your parents to see you as something to pity. And I think that it's incredibly hard to have those open dialogues, but it's so crucial, because then I think that it will increase everyone's understanding. And therefore, if like your mom is a teacher, then influencing younger people, I think
mhm,
that it's a conversation that needs to be less taboo, so that way we can be more informed.
yeah,
And Ellie appropriately observed yesterday, I was very impressed by you, that this interfaith video did broach this topic, not penetratingly, but around it, in the form of talking about brokenness, that this generation is born to a broken world,
mhm,
and that they do not know what to choose, as Cam would contend by using her distinctions, because they do not understand the nature of what they're choosing.
absolutely. They don't understand, and then more totally agree with what you're saying, because they don't understand why it's wrong. They just think that it's wrong. So they don't know what lines they are crossing, and that is so important that you made that
Mhm.
distinction.
This conversation, I think, is a 5-hour long conversation.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
And to think we were just beginning. And so we have performances coming. And so let me allot time to the performances. And after you go to New York, after you come down, after you relax, I think we should do part 2.
Absolutely.
We would love to.
Invite you occasionally to really become commentators on this generation, very much like what Yara Shahidi is doing. I
Mhm.
think the two of you have this potential, and you have what Yara Shahidi does not have: music.
Mhm.
Make music purposeful, relevant, serious, and simultaneously entertaining.
Mhm.
This, I think, is what Berkeley could offer to the world.
Mhm. Absolutely.
All right, so let's move to performances. So
Yes. We're not sure how the audio is going to be, but we're just going to try to the best of our abilities to make sure
Which one did
everything
you want to do first?
um and then we'll do yours. Okay. Give us a couple seconds. You can sit.
No, I know.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Weird.
So I'm gonna sing a little short song first, and then Ellie's gonna sing a song, and then we are gonna sing a song together. How is this sound, Teodros? Hold on, it's not playing yet. How's that?
that sounds great.
Let's turn it up a little more. Alrighty, so this song is called Session 32. Alrighty. Just give me a second. Threw away your love letters. I thought it'd make me feel better. I finally got you out my bed, but I still can't get you out my head. Ooh, sending you one text at a time. Know you by your phone, boy, pick up your line. I ain't too proud to beg, so what's been said has been said. And I need you to know you don't know what love is, and I need you to know you don't know, 'cause you don't know what love is if you don't put up a fight, and you don't know what love is if you don't stay up all night crying. You don't know what love is if you two get a call a million times, and you say you know what love is, but I swear you've never seen it in your life. Ooh. I swear you've never seen it in your life. All right, so that's that one. And then Ellie's gonna sing the other one. I'll put you on mute.
Wow, and now the guitar.
So this song is called Chemtrails. It's by Lizzie McAlpine. I see chemtrails in the sky, but I don't see it. I know that I feel it, but I don't know the name. 'Cause I play with my food and someone else takes it away. It's so hard to believe, but I'm trying to change. I see lines in the sand, but I don't see who made them. I still listen to that band that you showed me last April, and I still play with my food. I'm a child at the grown-ups table. It's so hard to believe, but right now I feel stable. I moved away and I grew a few inches. What a shame, I had a chance and I missed it. And there are some days when I hear that song and I hate to admit it, but I miss it, I do. I miss it, I miss you. Oh, I miss it, I miss it, I miss you. I see chemtrails in the sky, but I don't see the plane. I know that I feel it, but I don't know the name. 'Cause I play with my food and then I throw it away. It's so hard to believe that I have to grow up this way. I moved out and I made some new friends.
Sometimes when I shout, it feels like no one hears it. And there's some days that I feel like somewhere you're watching as I grow up without you. I miss it, I miss you.
That's the end of that one.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Now we'll do our combined one.
Yes.
Ready whenever you're ready.
Yeah, just try it.
I'm just gonna play the key so we can do it.
You start whenever. Singing at a funeral tomorrow for a kid a year older than me. And I've been talking to his dad. Makes me so sad when I think too much about me. I can't breathe. And I have this dream where I'm dreaming underwater, when my friends are waving from the shore. I don't need you to tell me what that means. I don't believe in that stuff anymore. Jesus Christ, I'm so blue all the time. And that's just how I feel. Always have, and I always will. Always have, and I always will.
I have a friend I call when I've bored myself to tears, and we talk until we think we might just kill ourselves, and then we laugh until it disappears. Last night I blacked out in my car, and I woke up in my childhood bed, wishing I was someone else, feeling sorry for myself when I remembered someone's kid is dead.
Sing chorus.
Jesus Christ, I'm so blue all the time, and that's just how I feel. Always have, and I always will. Always have, and always will. And it's 4 a.m. again, and I'm feeling nothing again.
Riff.
Spectacular.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
So proud. It's,
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
we're
we're so
so happy to
honored.
be here.
I am the one who should be happy, and I'm considerably happier. And I knew intuitively that this was going to be a great performance, and it was.
This was amazing. Would
And-
love to do it again.
Thank you so much. Yes, you're going to be regular guests of excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros.
We love that.
Like the world to know that it is Cam, I'm sure in consultation with Ellie, who
Mhm.
arranged a GoFundMe project for excellence with Professor Kiros, for which I publicly say I thank you.
Always,
Thank
of
you so
course.
much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the opportunity.
Bye-bye.